Hello everyone, welcome to Insights IAS initiative. So in today's class, we'll talk about various topics that is in news from environmental perspective. So if you see, uh, you would have heard of Mr. Ramchandra Guha, who is a very popular historian in India, known for his ideas on India's role in the modern world and how India has evolved as a democracy. But he has of late written a book with respect to nature or environmentalism, and the book is titled Speaking with Nature. So he has spoken about how the idea of environmentalism has evolved in India, and the author here has picked up some pioneers of environmentalism in India, that is, some leaders who have taught the idea of environmentalism and popularized it in India's context. So the author here talks about two different ideas of environmentalism. So before that, we'll see what is the idea of environmentalism that we perceive today. We think that it is a Western construct. That is, we believe that to India, the idea of conserving environment came from the Western countries once the scientists in the form of IPCC reports and the other areas briefed the world about the importance of climate change and global warming. But the author here counters the notion that love for nature is a Western construct that India has adopted. So, in this, he analyzes two major perspectives, which is very useful in our GS paper 3 ecology environment topic, and also the idea of environmentalism comes in various essays that we have seen in UPSC. So the first idea is full stomach environmentalism. So this is a notion where environment consciousness can come only out of prosperity. That is, only when a country becomes rich, they can think about environmentalism. So it implies that till India attains economic prosperity, it would be challenging to spread environmental consciousness among the masses. And to us, this idea has been imported from the West, as I have just discussed. Mr. Guha challenges these ideas and asserts that in India, we do not have any space for full stomach environmentalism, but we promote livelihood environmentalism. That is, in Indian context, environmentalism is determined by necessities of survival. So we do not have an option but to make peace with the environment. He says that millions in India depend on sustainable resources for their daily needs, making environmental stewardship a crucial issue. So the author here has discussed in detail about Rabindranath Tagore and other leaders here who have been pioneers of environmental movement in India. So let us know if you need an analysis of this book. Just reading the summary of this book was so enriching, so I thought that we'll make a summary of this book for you for special use in essay purpose but in the next week. So let us know in the comment box if you really are interested in the analysis of this beautiful book, especially for your mains perspective. So there is an essay in place for us which can be, that is the current topic, can be useful in a previous year essay in this manner. That is, South Asian societies are woven not around the state but around their plural cultures and plural identities. So if you link environmentalism to this, for us, the state intervention came from 1972 through Wildlife Protection Act and other interventions after that. But by nature, the pluralistic culture that India is having, we have so many tribal communities who have been caretakers of environment even before these laws came up. Correct. So all the tribes like Idu Mishmi tribe of Arunachal Pradesh, we can say Katu Nayakan tribes, and the Maldhari community of Gujarat, as we have discussed in the previous video as well, they have always conserved nature, and it is the pluralistic identity that is recognition for Southeast Asia. And we need not have a Western imported context of state intervention and environmentalism. So, do connect the ideas in this manner with PYQ so that your analysis of topics will be easier and you can give multiple dimensions to your answers as well. So next topic would be again from GS paper 3 but from economy perspective. Here there were two articles that were relevant here, one from Hindu and the other one from Deccan Herald. So we are basically talking about quick commerce and its expanded digital footprint in a disruptive fashion. So what is the meaning of quick commerce here? By the image you can see what the meaning would be. So it is basically a business model that relies or which promises ultra fast delivery of, let's say, in few minutes, and it is typically within a few minutes that we are talking about, using advanced logistics and technology. So what are the items that are delivered here? Let's say groceries, then some instant snacks. We are talking about medications that are needed in emergency. All of them are delivered to a doorstep just within a click of a button and within a few minutes of ordering them. So does it have any advantage? Without a doubt, we'll quickly analyze the advantages. Convenience for customers is extremely high. That is, you need not walk, take a bag and walk a few distance and talk to the grocery store nearby, carry the luggage yourself. So that would be time consuming and definitely not for the busy people in the urban area. So convenience for customers would be a positive fact. Instant fulfillment of needs, that is, you want it, you order it, within minutes it's at your doorstep. So this fulfillment of needs has always been a greater advantage given by these quick commerce companies. Competitive difference with e-commerce landscape. E-commerce landscape basically deals with durable goods like televisions or anything that is people use on a larger scale, in addition to FMCG products, that is fast moving consumer good product. But most of the quick commerce companies faced on FMCGs, so they have the ease of procuring the goods and giving it to the people in record short time. So that is the advantage they have over e-commerce landscape, which take days to deliver a product. Then advantages over departmental store, which provide us with limited opportunities and limited options to choose from. But when you take a quick commerce agent, let's say Instamart or any of them, they give you a varied spectrum of products from which you can pick and choose the products based on your convenience. So these are definitely a model of customer driven business model. Entirely it is based on the needs of the customers. So though they all provide so many advantages, do they also come with disadvantages, as the article here is calling it to be disruptive? Let's analyze. So first is speedier delivery of this quick commerce companies is at time pressurizing e-commerce companies, let's say Amazon or Flipkart for example, under pressure, as you know they take 3 to 5 days to deliver a product, whereas these quick commerce companies are doing that in few minutes. So this extra pressure on the e-commerce entities are a reality. So this forces FMCG companies altogether to go on a extremely high discounting model. In the long run, this would threaten their profitability as well. So this would be, that is, the quick delivery would not only threaten e-commerce companies but also FMCGs in the long run, impacting their profitability. So the second threat would be to the old institutions that exist, let's say the mom and pop shops that we popularly call them as kirana shops. They also would be having an issue, because people would not mind walking, taking a stroll to get some products earlier. But now this idea of quick commerce is building on a concept called habit making. So if an individual is habituated to ordering products online for daily grocery needs, they would completely disconnect with the local stores, putting the older institutions in peril. At the same time, currently these markets or this quick commerce industries are present only up for 12% of the country's total FMCG needs, because they are only in the metro cities or main urban areas. So in the near future, when they expand to semi-urban areas and non-metro cities as well, their market share is going to grow up to 45% of the total FMCG consumption. So when it happens, we are going to see a bigger threat to old institution as well. So it is having a huge potential in future, because we are seeing the increase in per capita income rising significantly, and cost of living, though it is getting costlier due to lifestyle choices, people are preferring online consumption of goods. putting the high potential for quick commerce companies. So it is expected to adapt in other areas as well. So how this question would be relevant or topic would be relevant is, let's see it through a question. So this could be a practice question you can answer in the comment section. Evaluate the impact of emerging business models like quick commerce on urban economic systems, employment patterns, and consumer behavior in India. So as we have just seen, they are extremely consumer driven. They provide gig economy to many people who are in need of it, and it comes with many advantages. You are just asked to evaluate how it is impacting the urban landscape. So do try answering this. As always, we'll try to put up a model answer for this in the next session. If you want to use this in the essay perspective, so let's say this is just an insight capsule for you to put some thought like this in your mind so that you think over it when you sleep tonight. So what is the idea here? The pursuit of convenience is modernity trading depth for speed. That is, when we move more towards the idea of convenience, that is, everything should get easier, we need to work on things in a quicker manner. What is easy, we tend to pick that up. So is this modernity trading depth for speed? That is, we need to go for deeper meaning or deeper understanding of why we are doing a particular initiative rather than quickly completing it. Or we can also talk about quality of performance over quick or performance. So here, walking to the store to get groceries would do multiple help. That is, will force a person to get up from their seated area so that they'll walk around a little, develop social connect with one's neighborhood by visiting mom and pop stores. All of this will be compromised with the idea of speed now. That is, get products within 10 minutes sitting at the doorstep to meet your last moment needs. So all this idea of social connection or bonding with the neighborhood stores or people would be compromised. So just think whether in the modern day we are focusing more on convenience rather than the purpose of why we are doing a particular activity since a long time. So do think about it and know your views in the comment section. So going to the next topic, we have another environment related idea here. So as we know, we are talking about COP29 in Azerbaijan. We have a lot of discussion on making the whole environment of the world climate resilient. So resiliency is about adapting to climate change that is going on before we actually work on controlling that. So one of the adaptation that is required is in the form of building changes. That is, we have now heard of many negatives about the way urban areas have turned out to be, in the form of concrete jungles. We talk about water congestion in the urban areas or shortage of water, yet they'll be flooded many a times. We talk about these particular buildings being energy intensive as they are made of concrete, they trap heat, thus increasing a requirement of AC and artificial room temperature controllers. So when urban area, or if we see that in the coming time urbanization is going to be the norm in the country, how to make sure the urban areas are climate resilient, the main idea would be to have climate resilient building models. So this article in Hindu was talking about how to make a home in harmony with the environment. So we'll quickly look into the different dimensions of it. So the first point is talking about integrative design, where various stakeholders including architects, the engineers who implement the ideas of the architect. Third one would be an important component who currently is missing in our urban areas called sustainability consultants. So these consultants would help a person to decide what would make a home sustainable, and the owners of the building. So when these four nodes of the constructing a house would join together, let's say they have an environment goal of making sure their house is 90% lit by sunlight in the morning time. So that goal can be worked on by integrative design by including all the three nodes in the construction sector. The second one would be sustainable material that goes into building a home. The first one will be to make sure the material is durable by life cycle cost analysis. Let's say we need energy efficiency material. For that, we need more of recycled products which go into construction of houses rather than freshly minted concrete all the time. And the third important point would be the health of the people who stay in this by using sustainable material, let's say which is low carbon intensive or which is less emitting interiors we can talk about. So how to make house efficient or energy efficient? We have two major points of discussion here. One is the passive strategy, the other one is the active strategy. So passive strategy is when you control the natural lighting of the house. We can talk about proper orientation of the building so that it faces the sun for throughout the day and get the natural lighting. In addition, the material needs to be naturally cooling agent as well, so that we try to control the heat that is released due to the sunlight coming into the house. So that would be passively working on energy efficiency. How about actively working on it? We can have automated light control system for the houses. We can also rely on solar model where most of the energy is used by generated by solar energy. So this would be active and passive way of energy efficiency in the house. So the next one would be how would you make the household and meet the water needs of the house. So here the ideas that the writers were giving is about low flow faucets. That is, you'll have tap that will be very shorter in height and deliver very small amount of water to fulfill the needs. And the second one would be dual flush toilets. These may be very small intervention, but imagine when a whole city adopts it, how much change it would have on our water efficiency. Plus, there is a discussion about on-site wastewater management or grey water handling plants, which would go a long way in recycling the household water for gardening needs. So these are the points discussed on water needs. So how they handle the climate risks, then when we go to that aspect, we talk about making it more effective by selecting a site. So we should make sure it is not an encroached water body or it is not on an uphill or a to extreme downhill. When we make a proper site selection, it would do with most of the worries about unpredicted climate vagaries, right? And if we are focusing on durable materials and diverse energy sources, definitely the houses are going to be habitable even during power cuts. So has anybody implemented this, or is this just something we are cooking up in the textbooks? Yes, this is already experimented. You can use the example of or case study of Infosys building. Okay, the name is of the building is Infosys Crescent building in Bangalore. So there was a small comparison where in the normal setup, if a building is housing 8,000 people, it would need 75 kilowatt hour of energy per square kilometer. But using this climate resilient building model, the Infosys Crescent building is housing 8,000 people, and if you see the energy requirement, it is 150 to 200 kilowatt hour. So I'm sorry, I told it the other way around. This is the climate resilient building. This is the traditional building. Please rectify this. So just see the transition from 150 200 kilowatt per hour to we have come to 75 kilowatt per hour. So energy efficiency is extremely high on this note. So please note this case study for climate resilient models of building. So going to the next topic, as we see, coming 26th of November, we'll celebrate the Constitution Day to commemorate the idea of Indian Constitution and the day we adopted the preamble. This article in Deccan Herald was very interesting to analyze the various dimensions. So as we know, GS paper 2 is quite a fluid topic, and especially when it comes to Indian Constitution's morality, what is the crux of Indian Constitution, how has it been a successful document despite the challenges it has come, and we rightly call Indian Constitution as a living document. because it has adapted to the changes of the time. We'll quickly view some details on how this constitution has been successful, what more needs to be done to make it way more efficient. So what has been the foundation of Indian democracy? It is the way Indian constitution has been made. That is, how Indian constitution was made is based on 3 points. It was an elaborative effort, and it's not a shortcut measurement we use. We took a long route to keep all the stakeholders in the question. Hence it was a lengthy procedure, and it was mainly based on consultative model. That is, all the members of the assembly were allowed to put their viewpoints, whether they will be accepted or not. These viewpoints have always enriched the debates related to our constitution. At the same time, it was democratic in nature. It included people from different spectrums of society. It included people from different ideological backgrounds. All of them together have framed the constitution. So even at turbulent times like our constitutional way was made, it has been a very great effort. So the author talks about the paradox of the time when constitution was made. So what was one idea? That was the time constitution was made with lot of hope that it will establish democracy. It was very aspirational, we can say. It spoke about the rights of the people. It spoke about freedom and made various promises. At the same time, the time was contrasted by hopelessness, because India, which was a single country, got partitioned, and it was very painful. It was marred by a lot of violence. So partition war independence was not definitely only happy moment. There was a lot of anxiety among the people about what will really happen to the country. So all this definitely undermined the same freedom that constitution was promising to give to the people. So under this context, whether constitution will work really or not was the biggest question that people were actually talking about. Especially other parts of the world had expressed this concern, but India definitely has proved them wrong. So we'll see some statistics of 1947, which would be helpful in analyzing that how, despite all this turbulence, these statistics were reversed within a few years into democracy. So 346 million was our population back then, and out of this population, literacy rate, if you see, it was just 16%. And when it comes to female literacy rate, it was even meager at just 7%. Infant mortality rate was 208 per thousand population. Poverty was extremely high. We can tell that 80 to 90% of Indians were poor. And when it comes to life expectancy, it was just 32 years, and 75 million malaria cases were recorded in India back then. So how to deal with this situation was the question. So why our legacy of the constitution is that, we had to establish an extremely new society, which was to be established through social and economic revolution. We were not talking about a revolution in the military sense, but a socio-economic revolution which needed to be achieved through democratic spirit and using constitutional institutions, which would be extremely challenging. And the second major important aspect that Indian constitution provided was universal adult franchise. That is, by placing abundant faith in the Indian common man to introduce a democratic government, it has been one of the greatest achievements and also a successful experiment that our constitution makers have made. So there's a small excerpt from this whole article where we see Ornit Shanhi, an author of How India Became Democratic, was quoted. If you see here, the election process gave recognition to India's diverse and multitudinous minorities, provided real possibilities for them in the struggle for a place in new spaces of power. So earlier power structure was realized by social realities, but now would be political. So the election became a means of acknowledging deeply conflictual nature of India's democratic politics. So it demonstrated the constitutive unpredictability of India's electoral democracy. So despite these contradictions, we were able to excel. So the next point here would be what Ambedkar had told with respect to implementation of this constitution. So this is an interesting idea for your essays as well. Listen to it carefully. He told that however good the constitution is, if those who implement that do not have a proper will or do not have proper intention to implement, the constitution is nothing but going to fail. However bad the constitution is, if those who implement it, if they are having good intention, they are working hard to implement it, the constitution is going to be a grand success. So he left the onus of making a constitution successful or failure on the elected representatives and the guardians of the constitution, that is the courts. So this analysis would be relevant here. The article was ended with how to make the constitution effective, that is to make sure in the coming days when we celebrate the 100 years of our constitution adoption in 1947, how to make it interesting or how to make it effective was divided into 3 points. The first one being strengthen democratic institutions. Democratic institutions need to be strong, with the idea that they fulfill their constitutional mandate for the purpose for which they have made, that should be completely fulfilled. The second one is civic and educational awareness, that is public should know not only their rights but also their duties in making the constitution successful. So the idea of what visionaries thought about our constitution should develop an enlightened citizenship, that is the meaning of awareness here. The third point is respect rule of law. So respecting the rule of law is needed through independent courts and institutions. So remember, we have everything in the Indian constitution and the application of the constitution, and if we strengthen the three out of all the three of them, it will make the constitution more successful. So to conclude with, we have used the idea of Granville Austin, who is a constitutional expert. He tells that constitutions are inert, that is, they are inactive, they don't work themselves and are dependent on being worked by citizens, elected and appointed leaders, right? So constitution won't do anything by itself, we need to work it out to be more successful day by day. So this would be a very good analysis for you to write any question related to fundamental rights or any portion of the constitution, for that matter in paper 2. So we'll move to the last topic, which is a very good case study for GS paper 1, GS paper 4, and also to be used in our essays. So this is a story about Giselle Pellico. Okay, she is according actually a few weeks ago, I think in the month of August or September, many Instagrammers or other social media people also made the case of Giselle Pellicott very popular by telling that her pain and agony was something people could link to throughout the world. That is, she is a 71-year-old woman who has undergone the idea of mass rape, who's a mass rape survivor, and her trial has recently started in the French court from 2nd of September. So as we know, this is a very sensitive idea for a survival of rape or any other sexual assault, where the trauma that the women undergo is not just physical but something more than that. It is having a huge impact on their whole life, from which they may not come back ever. So this case is about how the French government is handling this case and how we have many lessons to learn from it. So if you see, Giselle Pellicot has become a feminist icon in France and abroad. So usually this kind of trials go on in closed doors to protect the identity of the victim and also to be sensitive to the idea that she would not be repeatedly asked questions that would hurt her again and again. So this person, that is Giselle Pellicot, has chosen to go for an open trial. So this was surprising, and the purpose was to show the world that how drugs are used to commit mass sexual abuse in this manner. So how she is able to handle all of them is because of the Association of Mediation Assistance to Victims. So this is called as AMAV. It is kind of a law firm that exists in France, but goes beyond just a group of lawyers. So what is their mechanism if you see? This team, AMAV team, is hosting or is representing the victim in this case. They provide her with legal assistance of how to deal with the case and make it a successful pitch. They also give a lot of social assistance to her. Why social assistance? Because this whole incident of sexual assault is coming with a lot of social stigma, and at times leads to or makes a person isolated from the society, which is definitely not good for their health. So they provide proper social assistance to them to come back to the society and face the whole crowd during the court trials as well. At the same time, this group also is having psychological assistance where emotional support is given to the victim, because emotional healing and mental well-being of the victim is equally important. So this AMAV group is not just a group of lawyers, but the employees are also acting as social legal assistants who give psychological net in case the victim needs it. So in case of Giselle Pellico, after every single break in the trial, she would do binge eating of sweets because she had to put out her frustration or the anxiety that she undergoes during the trial of repeatedly being asked the questions. So this is how she is able to deal with the case here. So if you see, even in India, we have many cases of sexual assault repeatedly reported, and we have our own mechanism of dealing with it by keeping the victim's name hidden as per the rules to protect the identity. But we are just limiting it to that. And we believe that giving justice to a rape victim would only be about giving punishment to the culprit here. So giving life sentence or death sentence would do justice to the victim. But is it really the justice that we are talking about? So without addressing psychological scar that the whole episode has created, it is a scar on the life of the person and the legal challenges. Victims may struggle with long term emotional distress, and in this, despite putting the culprit behind the bar, we may not be giving complete justice to the victim. So, you can use this example of giving true justice to the victims, especially in rape or such sexual assault of children. This model of AMAV in France is very much helpful. So, if you want to make sure that POCSO Act is more effective, the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, which has provided many promises to women's safety and giving punishment to the culprits, or we are talking about POSH Act for securing women. So all these are very good, but do they really talk about the psychological impact that the victim is going through and the psychological help that they need? They are there, but we are not implementing that with good vigor. So do use this in our answers in GS paper 2. It can also be relevant in GS paper 4. Let's say you get a case study about a similar case where you have unearthed a mass sexual harassment case, and how would you give protection to the victim in this case? Do use this case study as a solution in your answer. So that's all in today's ICANN initiative. Do read the headings that we give for each topic in the thumbnail. It is very interesting and it would help you to give small subheadings for your essays or even your answers. So keep writing the answers. Thank you. Meet you in the next episode.